In the book Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, he says about how the reader's imagination plays an important role in understanding the story. In between the comic strip, it's the reader's imagination which connects the comic strips in seeing a story for himself. How does it comes with respect to a cartoon? The dynamics of imagination with respect to a cartoon.
Here we expect the readers to be following a particular story. They will be following it, the political aspects, the various stories and all that. I would put it like this: it is there is not much of a difference between a filmmaker and a cartoonist.
Okay.
It is something like, Satyajit Ray also was a cartoonist. He was also an illustrator, like Akira Kurosawa. They used to draw frames in a Bharatiyar. So they think visually. See, that's the idea. But when you compose, in a cartoon, it is a single frame. So the single frame, it's like when you're in a movie, it is a part of a 24. So you have to know what happens behind and what is going to happen after. So it's like a freeze frame in one particular this thing. So you have to compose it in such a way that they'll know what has happened behind and what's going to happen next. Anticipation. So this we leave certain things to the imagination. For example, we use certain phrases, English phrases, so that you just give a hint to them that this is the communication has to be very subtle. Expect the reader to be quite intelligent, and you don't spoon feed them. You leave certain element of doubt so that they can expand on it, grow on it.
Just like there is a common man for R.K. Lakshman, like a common symbol for people. Do you have a symbol like that you use repeatedly in your cartoons?
No, the common man varies in different situations. For example, you can't have the same common man in a different type of situations. There is a middle class home, there is a poor man's home, and there is the executive or industrialist. For them, the common person is different. So, for example, when you identify an industrialist or something, he cannot be the common man. Common man cannot be sort of visualized as one. So, if it's the poor, I have a particular person. If it's a middle class person who is bothered about the daily living, for that I have a different person. If it's an industry or at the higher level, I have a different person. So
the poor man is the person sitting in the court.
In the court, outside his home. But generally, they are the common man. They are the persons who are affected by the political decisions. So it is they who the politicians have to address. So I have, for any common man commenting on the economy aspect, I take him as the common man, the person who is poor, the lowest common denominator, if you can call it that way.
Okay. Any other cartoonists that you like or follow?
Yeah, there are lots of them. Lots of them have inspired me. But usually we call David Lowe the god of cartooning. The person who was in the World War years, First World War and Second World War. And he was also drawing for the Hindu earlier. I mean, we were syndicating the only paper which syndicated his cartoons, and he was the cartoonist to be followed. And even now he has not been surpassed. Even in the entire world. And in the US we have, of course, the two cartoonists whom I owe my entire work. One is Pat Oliphant, and another is McNally, who is no more. So these two persons I like. Of course, Indian cartoonists, I like Abu, of course. Vijan, Lakshman, of course, is a constant for any cartoonist. And you learn more from these kind of people. For example, Lakshman, I have met all these people directly, and learned. It is more to do with their personality. Then once you know their personality, then you can understand what they are talking about.
Okay.
So it's always better to know them personally and their kind of views, their take on issues. So it helps you as a cartoonist to grow. Abu has taught me again, and Vijayan also, I've met him in his Hyderabad house and all that. They very nice people, very considerate. They don't think that you're a small boy coming there and all that. They used to share everything, what kind of pen they use, how to react, how they met big people, what it was like working in London. They used to share things, and it was a great experience knowing from them very personally. Even Lakshman, I was with him a whole day, and you could get to know how he thought. And there is one thing I would like to mention about Lakshman here. I asked him what is the quality required for a cartoonist. Usually they tend to be very cynical and and irreverent. Then it gives no hope to the reader. Then he gave one term which I think is a classic. He said, you have irreverence, okay, but he called it, make it dignified irreverence. And that, I take that as the bottom line. Okay, there has to be irreverence, but then make it dignified.
Your Twitter bio reads cartoonist by profession and painter by choice. How do you manage both those interests? How do you allocate time for them?
Allocation time adella kadiyade. The thing is, everything involves drawing. அந்த drawing தான் ஒரு கார்ட்டூனிங் ஃபார்மேட்டில் வளர்ந்துருக்கு. I would put it that way, because இப்போ கார்ட்டூனுடைய ரஃப் ஒரு டெஃபினிஷன் சொல்லணும்னா இட்ஸ் அ ரஃப் ட்ராயிங் அப்படின்னும், அவ்வளோதான். இட் இஸ் நினச்ச உடனே படம், that is, you communicate through the visual language. This is cartoon. So it need not be necessarily a complete full drawing. அது ஒரு ஸ்பான்டேனியஸாக இருந்தாக்க அது ஒரு it gives you the spontaneity which appeals. So that is a cartooning. இப்போ drawing-ன்னு வரைச்சா it is aesthetic. இப்போ இதில் அஃப்கோர்ஸ் இதுலேயும் aesthetics are there. But what happens is the idea becomes very important. The thing is, that is classical, that is, art is classical. But cartoon is very contemporary and it is based on events. So this language of drawing is used for one thing here and for another thing there. Basically, it's drawing only. So here it talks about things which will stay on for a longer time, say maybe 10 years, 20 years, or maybe this drawing part. Cartooning actually dies. It immediately as it's published, it dies a natural death, unless of course you can remember it for long. There are people who remember cartoons, 10-year-old cartoons and all, people recollect, because those images tend to be in your mind. So that very rarely it happens, and if they are affected by the cartoon, they remember it for long. They quote cartoons also, because Lakshman, many people quote Lakshman's cartoons because it hits them. So that is the success of a cartoonist. But drawing, I don't. In fact, cartooning tends to be too negative because you are pointing fingers, criticizing. So when you come home and you draw, you find a sort of peace with yourself. It's that is criticizing, this is almost praising. So it complements each other.